to be able to be in a position to help to move us on a path forward. Many people look at this as a problem because, okay, we've had to furlough some employees, and that is not an easy thing to do. But at the end of the day, I believe Harvey will come out better. We will come out stronger. We'll be much wiser because of it. And hopefully whatever mistakes were made in the past, whether by myself or previous administrations, we will not see those happen again. We're about fixing the problem and not just addressing the symptom. We want to find a cure for what we do so that our residents can continue to enjoy a quality of life that they deserve here in the Southland.
They certainly deserve it. Let me circle back around before I let you go to kind of where we began, which is with those furloughs. So when we say temporary, do you have an outlook as to how long this could last? I mean, we talk a lot about the government shutdown, and we're now on day 21. 35 days would kind of make history. But for Harvey and these workers who are now being furloughed, how long is the expectation that they could go in this situation?
Well, we wanted to be as short as possible. Once again, this was not an easy decision for us to make. And I say us because we made it collectively. And so we're doing everything that we possibly can, first of all, to bring those employees back. But what we really need to do is we need to get everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean state, federal, county, I mean the unions, I mean the pension, I mean any and every person that has a stake in the city of Harvey. We need to get those people together, sit down at the table. One thing I believe for sure is that if we do that collectively, if we do that together, we can make this happen so quickly that the impact will be very minor. But if everyone wants to take their own position and say, you know, I'm over here and you're over there and we're not working together, then it'll take a little bit longer. But once again, I'm very hopeful that we will get where we need to be because there are so many people who are interested in what's going on in our city that we'll be able to put it back together, fix it the way that it needs to be fixed, and once again, serve the people who we have dedicated ourselves to.
Was there any conversation that was more specific, like, you know, even an expectation, 2 to 4 weeks, 2 to 4 months? Was there any type of conversation that kind of got into the specifics of how long it could possibly take?
Well, let me give you an example. If this bill that's in the House right now that would put a $30 million infusion into the city of Harvey was passed and signed by the governor today, and that money was available, everyone would be back today. So it's going to depend on a variety of issues that need to be addressed in order for us to be able to bring everyone back. But once again, I'm very hopeful that we can do so.
Okay, and then how do you keep from ending up in this situation again? Obviously, it's a horrible thing when you end up there, but how do you end up, you know, how do you prevent ending up in it again?
That's the key. And so we want to make sure that while I talk about my predecessors, we want to make sure that we're examining this the right way so that we can make sure that whatever mistakes were made from previous administrations, we don't go through that again. And that's the way that we do it. And we believe that, you know, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. There's this saying that if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Well, in this particular case, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. What we're doing is we're asking for help and assistance from all over to make sure that we have structured a plan in a way that is sustainable so that this type of event does not happen again.
Okay. Have you already identified some things that are like, okay, we can't do this again?
Well, we know one thing for sure is as far as our policing and fire is concerned, specifically as far as policing, we've cleaned up our police force. So we've made that much better. We've improved the overall.
What do you mean by cleaned up the police force? Let me ask you that.
Well, the police force, once again, we had an unprecedented situation where our police force had been raided twice by the federal government and once by our own state. And so we started working with, once again, state partners and county partners to find out what it is that we can do to clean up the department, to hire better qualified people, get these, these police academy cadets through, but also training them in the way that they need to be trained so that they can be more responsible when they act as police out in the public. Many of the issues that other people have had or other departments have had throughout the country, the city of Harvey has not had that. We have not had the police brutality issues. We were one of the first to get body cams. We instituted tasers into our department and a variety of training and different mechanisms so that we can make sure that we're serving our people the way that they're supposed to be served. So yes, cleaning up the department, making sure that it runs better, getting a better police chief that came in with different ideas for how we can run the department and make it better and improve our closure rates and improve the overall morale of the police department.
Well, hopefully the morale of the people in the city of Harvey is improving as well over time. We're definitely going to be checking back in with you, so I hope you'll make time for us.
Well, I look forward to it, and hopefully by that time we'll have more positive things to report. So I look forward to it.
Certainly hope so. All right. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's 1:33, everyone. Let's take a quick break, and we'll get back to some other conversations on the opposite side of it. $135 right now, and once we get to October, you start to think about the holiday travel season and what that could look like, especially this year while we have a government shutdown with no end in sight. So I want to bring in now Drew McQueen. He is the National Association of Air Traffic Controllers Great Lakes Regional Vice President. Let's talk a little bit more about what you all are going through and where we go from here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Where we go from here, look, it's been obviously a stressful time, a lot of uncertainty for our controllers. The job is already hard enough, stressful enough. Most controllers, if the public doesn't know, most controllers, the system is already critically staffed. They're already working 6-day work weeks, mandatory overtime, 10-hour days. So the added stress on top of that, of now worrying about when and if you're going to get a paycheck, just adds another level on top of it that our controllers simply just don't need. So.
Yeah. So GOP leaders have issued an early warning for air travel on Thanksgiving week. Do you feel like it's too early to give this warning, or no, we need to sound the alarms now?
Well, I think we're all hopeful, right? This thing will be, over soon. We urge our elected leaders to, go back to DC, do their job, end the government shutdown today. But our message is clear. Air traffic controllers are going to show up to work. They're going to do their job day in and day out, like they've been doing this entire time. Certainly, we run the safest national airspace system in the world. And we like to tell people, look, controllers didn't start the shutdown. We are certainly not going to end it. That's not our job. Our job is to get, airplanes to and from where they're going, get everybody's cargo to and from where it's going. And we are going to continue doing that day in and day out.
You say air traffic controllers are going to show up, do their jobs, but there are some issues that we're starting to see at some airports. Is that not a fair fact?
Well, I think, look, you're certainly seeing maybe a little uptick here and there, but certainly the majority of controllers are coming to work, doing their job day in and day out. Like I said before, the system is about 3,800 certified controllers short. So again, it's some of our critically staffed facilities like Chicago O'Hare, like Chicago Tracon. When you do have controllers who call in sick from time to time because they are human, they do get sick. They have children that get sick. It does throw the system off. So again, like I like to say all the time, there were disruptions and delays before the shutdown. There'll be disruptions and delays during a shutdown, and there will be after a shutdown. And those aren't necessarily due to a shutdown. Those are due to a system that's already critically staffed, very fragile, running on a thin razor's edge. And again, I think now everybody's just highlighting the shutdown and looking, to maybe the controllers, not coming to work as a cause for maybe delays. And like I said, there've been delays before. So.
Certainly, but we're addressing compounding issues here, as you mentioned. You all were sounding the alarm about that well before the government shutdown. So how does it feel to now have this happen? And yes, there's more attention on what you were already going through.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. We've been sounding the alarm bells for years. O'Hare Tower, for example, has been critically staffed since 2013. We've been, like I said, raising that alarm bell forever. That the system needs help. We need certified controllers, and luckily, Secretary Duffy has heard that message, and they're doing everything they can to get more controllers into the system. And fortunately, we have been making good progress and good strides in that. And what we're concerned about is this shutdown may stop that process. For now, it's continuing, but if it drags on for much longer, it might interfere with controllers getting hired, which is just going to prolong the problem of our critically staffed facilities even longer.
Yeah, and flights hit record numbers last year, as I'm seeing, while delays and cancellations were pretty low last year. What are your projections for this year, shutdown or not?
Look, I think the shutdown, the projections are going to keep going up, right? Again, I think that, like I said before, we run the safest national airspace system in the world. And again, I don't see any reason that, flights are going to stop flying, and people are going to stop going anywhere. So again, we certainly expect those projections to keep going up.
Okay, so what do you think people should do or be mindful of as we get closer and people are kind of thinking like, okay, the shutdown is continuing to go and I'm about to book my flight, or should I book my flight? What should people be thinking about?
Well, look, I think people should be thinking about just simply this, right? That, I would always call ahead, make sure. But again, like I said before, our message is clear. We are going to come to work, do our job, get the traveling public to and from where they are going to go. And again, but I will say this, the more this drags on, the more it adds another level of stress, another level of risk into the system. Controllers that should be focused on doing their job at hand now are having in the back of their mind, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to pay the car payment? How am I going to pay daycare for my kids so I can come to work? It is certainly another level of stress that you are forcing these people into, in a situation you could be forcing them into, where some of them, especially at our lower level facilities that have to go look for other income streams. They might have to drive Uber, deliver pizza at night, waitress, waiter. So again, it is another thing on top of what they're already dealing with that simply doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. And what were some of the airports that maybe have, you mentioned O'Hare, but like what are some of the other airports? If we're looking at travel, you might hit multiple airports. So what are some of the other airports that are kind of having bigger issues than others?
Well, look, I think, all airports, I think, again, like I said, the system is critically staffed, just not Chicago, just not in New York. I mean, the system overall and as a total is critically staffed. So again, I don't think it matters where you go. I think that everybody needs to understand how fragile the system actually is. And again, and how much extra stress and another level of risk that the shutdown is putting on top of a system that's already, just getting by. We just don't need it. We need the shutdown to end today.
Okay, well, thank you for making some time for us, and please keep us updated as we, continue. There's no end in sight to the shutdown, so we'd really like to hear from you regularly about how things are going for your workers.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. 1:43. We will take a break, and we have another person who's standing by right now to talk about a sunken garden here in our area. $145 right now. And from 1907, when it was a leisure space for employees who worked at a 40-acre industrial complex when the company was headquartered in Lawndale, to 2023, when North Lawndale residents began planting new plots for a garden. This space in North Lawndale has seen so much history, and the restoration project continues with the help of a few good friends. I want to bring in Carolyn O'Boyle with Friends of Sears Sunken Garden. She is a board member. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Tell me about this Sears Sunken Garden. Like, if I've never heard of it before, how would you describe it?
Well, it's in the middle of the North Lawndale neighborhood in the city of Chicago, and it once served the employees of Sears, which, as many Chicagoans know, was a major retailer for the city of Chicago. And the founder of Sears, a gentleman named Julius Rosenwald, thought it was really important for his employees to have access to the outdoors during their workday. So he created this magnificent garden, which is just under 2 acres, to serve the employees who worked there. And then over the years, it became a really cherished destination in North Lawndale, and generations of people living there would go to take their wedding photos there or their graduation photos and celebrate milestones in their lives in that garden. But unfortunately, in the 70s and 80s, the garden fell into disrepair, and the citizens of North Lawndale thought, well, we really want to bring this back to its former glory, and so that's when the work got underway.
And I think it's such a wonderful project for a community anchor. So you have this historic landmark restoration or renovation happening now. What's it fueled by? How is it being funded?
Well, first I'll say what's it fueled by. In 2018, the North Lawndale community created a quality of life plan that called for sort of reclamation of the open spaces in the community to really serve as anchor amenities for folks. I think that parks and open space are really sort of the glue that holds any community together. They serve as gathering places, they help with the environment, they help with health. So the residents of North Lawndale really got behind this project. The current restoration is being funded largely with funding that came from the Driehaus Foundation, who provided a gift of $1 million to restore the pergola. And the Trust for Public Land, which is the organization I also work for, provided some seed funding that helped to get the design work done. And we're seeking funding now to complete the restoration.
I appreciate your humility. She is the Illinois State Director for Trust of Public Land. Tell me about the phases of this project.
So the first phase is getting the pergola restored, and that is, the pergola is a large architectural feature that anchors the garden, and that is going to get a facelift. It's going to get new paint, new rafters. Some of the roof tiles that have been damaged will be replaced. We're also going to get new lighting, a new electricity grid, and so it will really sort of literally light up the block when it's done, that phase of it. The second phase is really installing the garden, and one of the things that we're really proud of with this project is that when it's done, it's going to look like a garden and people will use it as a garden, but it's really going to be so much more than that, because during the second phase, we're going to excavate the entire site and install underground storage for stormwater. So it's going to help to retain stormwater during large rain events. We're going to create all new pathways through the garden to make it ADA accessible. It's a sunken garden, and it was built during an era when people weren't as cognizant of making sure that our public spaces are accessible to everyone. So there's some stairs that are required to get down into the garden or up onto the pergola. The new pathways will allow anybody to get into the garden and up to the pergola. So during the second phase, the pathways, the underground stormwater storage, then all of the lighting and fencing and seating. We're going to have a water feature, but really the pièce de résistance is going to be the garden itself. And we're going to install thousands and thousands and thousands of new plants, perennials, shade trees, ornamental trees, shrubs, etc. And the design we have was created by Pete Udolph. And everybody who's a garden aficionado will know who Pete Udolph is, but if you don't, he's the world-renowned garden designer who designed the Lurie Garden in Millennium Park and also did the design for the High Line in New York. And so for the community of North Lawndale to have a person of this stature design the garden is a real coup for the neighborhood. And it's really been a two-way street where the community residents are learning about what a Pete Udolph designed garden will bring, But Pete Udolph is also learning from the community about what their needs and desires are for the garden. So it's been really an interesting exercise for everybody.
Yeah, I'm so glad you started to talk about the people who live in North Lawndale because, when you talk about different areas in Chicagoland that have been disinvested or some people would even say forgotten from the standpoint of things that are beautiful, North Lawndale would be up on that list pretty high. And so, what is the feedback that you've been getting from people who live there? I've done stories in North Lawndale. I know there is a heart for beauty in North Lawndale, but what is the feedback that you've been getting from people as you've been trying to bring that there?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that there's a heart for beauty everywhere, and that it's sort of our sort of collective will to manifest it in every place that exists. And so during the time that I've been working directly with the residents of North Lawndale, we've just gotten overwhelmingly positive reinforcement for this work because I think everybody wants where they live to be a place of beauty, a place of respite, a place where you can sort of unplug from your day-to-day life and just take in the sights and smells of and sounds that a beautiful garden can provide. And so we really started working on this during the pandemic days. And so we had a series of online courses where we talked a little bit about some, garden design principles, but more than that, we asked people to tell us what they wanted to see in their garden. And so, for example, one of the things we heard was some of the color schemes that they were really interested in. And so we were able to communicate that to Pete Udolph. They also wanted to represent the African culture. And so Pete has included some plants that originate in Africa into the design. So I think people understand that these kinds of public spaces really can form the glue that pulls the community together and have really turned out to support the effort and to share their concerns. I mean, what's unique about this Sears Sunken Garden is that it is not a Chicago Park District site. So it's held by the Foundation for Home and Square. So neighbors are concerned about how the site will be managed and what the safety measures will be. And so it really takes a lot of listening to make sure that we get all of those details right.
Sure, that's super important. How long do you anticipate all of this taking?
Well, we think the pergola restoration will be complete by the spring of 2026. And then once we secure the additional funding we need for the garden, we imagine it'll take another 18 months or so after that.
Well, I can't wait to see its finished project, the product.
Well, you'll have to come out for
Yes,
sure.
yes. You please keep us updated on when you get things completed, and we will work on that. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. That was Carolyn O'Boyle, Friends of Sears Sunken Garden board member and Illinois State Director for Trust for Public Land. Let's take a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. We're approaching the 2 o'clock hour, but if you were with us right off the top of the 1 o'clock hour, we told you about a few different things that we were monitoring in Washington, D.C. We took you inside a Senate hearing for narcotics control. We also showed you a live picture where we were awaiting Hakeem Jeffries to speak. In part, we knew he was going to be addressing the government shutdown now in day 21, but he also took a moment to talk about this as much as he could. A January 6th defendant who was pardoned in January that has now been arrested for making a credible death threat against House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. So again, that is a developing situation. It's a 34-year-old man from Clinton, New York, now charged with a felony count of making a terroristic threat. So we didn't get to see and listen into Hakeem Jeffries speaking, but he was addressing a couple of different things. Now, while we talk about another issue that's happening there in Washington, D.C., if you haven't heard about it, there is a lot of design that's happening in the White House right now. And we want to bring in Michael J. Allen. He is a Northwestern Associate Professor of History to talk a little bit more about what's going on there. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's just right off the top give an overview of the renovations that are happening. This is for a banquet area, right?
Yes, a ballroom, as I understand, that should seat. Reports have been anywhere from 600 to 900 people, which is larger than the East Room, which is typically used for state dinners and such things.
Yeah, and as I understand it, it's been a while since we've seen renovations of this magnitude. Can you talk from a historical standpoint about maybe some other major renovations that really had people talking at the White House before?
Yeah, this is the biggest building project that's happened at the White House probably since it was built in the late 18th century. It was constructed originally in the 1790s. There have been some significant changes to the building since then to reflect the growth of the presidency and just the growth of the nation, the president's staff, et cetera. The most extensive renovation in the building's history since it was built was the addition of the east and west wings. That happened mainly in the early 20th century under Teddy Roosevelt and Howard Taft, who built the West Wing, which is where the president's office and his staff work, as well as the East Wing, which is traditionally more of the social center of the White House. The First Lady's offices are there. And the East Wing was subsequently expanded again in the 1940s, mainly to build a bunker underneath it for the president and his staff to shelter in the event of an attack on the United States. That was during World War II. But that was the most major expansion of the White House. The White House was then also kind of gut rehabbed under Harry Truman in the late 40s and early 50s, in part because the building was starting to literally fall down. And so President Truman spent much of his presidency living at Blair House on the Executive Square. And the building was torn down essentially to the studs. The foundations were repaired, the walls were repaired, and it was rebuilt. But that was a reconstruction that largely restored it to what it looked like beforehand, and was mainly for structural, sort of durability.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, there's renovations going on at the Fed, and there was so much made about Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, doing those renovations. And if this were to be finished first, I could see a lot more conversations happening about that. But this is kind of what President Trump does. I mean, he is used to building new things.
Yes, I mean, I think that's part of why this is happening now. I mean, historically, if you look at when the White House tends to be renovated in this way, it's usually with presidents who are aggressively asserting their power. So, I mentioned two major renovations earlier in the 20th century. One was under Teddy Roosevelt, a progressive president who really had a much more expansive vision of presidential power and U.S. power in the world. and he was expanding the presidency to match that, and so the White House expanded alongside of it. World War II and the early Cold War under Roosevelt and Truman are similar times when the United States is really assuming a much greater role in the world. The federal government is growing rapidly, in part to sustain that, and so the White House is expanded and grows again. And I think President Trump's doing something similar, but with his history of building in New York. As a real estate developer, I think he also sort of associates himself with this type of project. His detractors would point out that the Trump Tower was built only after he tore down the Bonwit Teller building in Manhattan, which was considered, parts of it were considered a historical landmark, which he just destroyed. And so he has a reputation and a history not only of building, but also of destroying things. And I think he's doing both here.
Yeah, this is a $200 million project. 90,000 square foot ballroom. You mentioned some of the other things that he built or tore down. The financial aspect of it was also very controversial over the years.
The financial aspect of this project?
Of this project and several of his other real estate dealings over the years were very controversial.
Sure. He also has a history, as he's proud to say, of driving hard bargains with the people across the table from him, and that includes the people that sort of build his buildings, the way he finances his buildings, largely in the past through debt. I think in this case, the specific financing that he's drawing on here is somewhat of a mystery to me, and I think to most of the American people. To my knowledge, that hasn't been spelled out with any kind of care or transparency, and that's one of the many kinds of mysteries and concerns that surround this particular project.
Yeah. So there are several concerns here. I see it's supposed to have golden crystal chandeliers, a gilded Corinthian columns, a coffered ceiling with gold inlays, gold floor lamps, checkered marble floor, 3 walls of arched windows looking out over the White House south grounds. Were you surprised at all by this?
Yeah, I think we're all surprised. I mean, in the sense that the White House has been largely unchanged since its construction 230 years ago. And so something of this magnitude really hasn't been done before. And so it's surprising in that sense. In another way, it's in keeping with some of the other changes he's made to the White House, the paving over of the Rose Garden, the adding of various kinds of gilded embellishments throughout the West Wing, throughout the Oval Office. It's very much kind of in keeping with the style of Mar-a-Lago and his general aesthetic tastes, and so maybe it's less surprising in terms of that. I think that one of the things that is somewhat controversial about this project is the size. It's going to be quite large. I think 90,000 square feet, if memory serves. It's going to, in some respects, overshadow the executive mansion itself. One of the things that I think many have expressed surprise about is how can he engage in such a significant redesign, essentially, of the White House grounds and property without any, consultation with the White House Historical Association and other kinds of architectural bodies that, as I understand it, are sort of tasked with overseeing historical preservation and design projects in federal buildings across the United States.
Yeah, and we can now see the demolition taking place. The White House communications director said that people are clutching their pearls. That's a direct quote. Pearl clutching right now. Why do you think people have such an emotional response to changes happening at the White House?
Well, I think it's largely because most people consider the White House to be the people's property and a kind of natural patrimony that belongs to all Americans. Presidents come and go. They occupy the White House for 4 to 8 years at a time, but then they leave, and another president comes. And so to have an individual president radically transform this sort of symbol of the American state and American democracy in such a way without really consulting with other parties is rather anomalous. Even the construction of the White House itself was subject of a national design competition, that had architects throughout the country submit plans to a body headed by George Washington that selected those plans. And similarly, the last major renovation of the White House in 1951 also had a historic commission and an architectural commission that were part of the planning of that project. And so to have something that I think people feel belongs to them radically changed, really without much oversight, consultation, or any kind of process, is surprising and alarming to some Americans, perhaps even upsetting. As for the pearl clutching, I mean, the White House likes to say those types of things in response to any kind of criticism that it gets, but that doesn't mean that the criticism isn't warranted.
Yeah, they said that it was structurally weak and in danger of collapse. So they're just modernizing it. Do you see it the same?
Hmm. Well, I'm not an architect, and I'm certainly not sort of capable of speaking authoritatively on that subject. I guess I would say that strikes me as somewhat um, hard to believe, given that the Presidential Command Center, that protects the president and the first family in the event of such things as nuclear war is underneath of it. I doubt that it's about to collapse, but I really can't say.
All right. Thank you so much for your time on what you did have the ability to say based on the extensive research that you have done into U.S. political and diplomatic history. Thank you so much, Professor Allen.
Thanks for having me.
All right. It's about 2:11, everybody. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, 2:14 right now. We want to take you to Atlanta, where law enforcement officers are describing stopping what could have been a mass shooting at the Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport.
We are responsible for the safety of the Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International Airport. We do so in partnership with a number of federal agencies as well that works very closely with us side by side. Sergeant Jones at that time, and then shortly thereafter, Major Wilson was alerted, began coordinating all of the resources of our police department that is there. We have a number of resources from K-9 to rifle officers, to patrol officers, bike officers. We have a range of resources that we keep at the airport. We also alerted our federal partners as well as the civilian team that was in place, alerting everyone. As Sergeant Jones was receiving a description of the vehicle and the description of what we believe Mr. Cagle was wearing, what he looked like, and his photograph from his driver's license, that was being disseminated throughout the airport, including to Officer Banks, who you're going to hear from shortly. What we didn't know at that point is that Mr. Cagle was already at the airport. He had arrived, and he had arrived at 9:29, and then he had entered the airport at 9:31. Now, that vehicle was shortly thereafter flagged as being improperly parked. A citation was issued, and then our protocol, and that occurred at 9:36. And our protocol is to call a K-9 to the scene. It is to make sure there's no bomb on that vehicle, and it's to tow it. However, by this point, we were starting to connect the dots and realize this vehicle was likely the vehicle that Mr. Cagle was in, and so we actually placed an officer on the vehicle in case he returned to the location. It's a busy airport. You all have reported from that atrium area live, south domestic. You all have been there. You know how crowded it was. And so officers such as Officer Banks and your partner, Officer Gibson, the team they were in, and many other individuals was being directed by Sergeant Jones. And then we played for you the body-worn camera of them interacting with him. And again, thank you, Officer Banks. I appreciate you. Sergeant Jones, I appreciate you. The tragedies that we've seen play out across our nation didn't happen here yesterday. And this is a much different, we would have met yesterday and today as a group one way or the other. We would have met as media and the law enforcement through a tragedy, or we would have met as media and law enforcement speaking about how the system works, where we ask Americans, if you see something, say something. And we ask your police officers to stand in danger for each of us every day. And so yesterday is what played out exactly we'd like it to be. Shadi, do you want me to walk through what's on the screen, or what's the flow for today? Okay. So obviously, and please jump in, Officer Banks, any point you would like, Major Wilson or Sergeant Jones. This is video view from domestic south. We see Mr. Cagle approaching in the blue shirt. Remember this, we have not yet received the telephone call from Cartersville. So that has not yet been received at the time that he has entered the area. We surmise that he's scouting the area. He's going to continue on, and I'm not sure, Director Spikes, what other video views we have, but we do know that he proceeds to the TSA screening area where travelers queue up to be screened and proceed to their boarding gates. That's where he seemed to have most of his attention that he was focusing on. And as Jonathan, we want to go to the next screen. Again, we're going back here to the timeline of when it was located in 9:40. We received the alert. We started pushing this information out the airport. Then Sergeant Jones, I'm actually going to turn it over to you because at this point you were on the phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you kind of tell us what you were passing out to the team. And then Officer Banks, if you'll kind of walk through how you knew you had located the individual.
Yes, sir. Right. Okay, so when I received the call from Cartersville Police Department, I did realize the urgency of trying to get all of the information out as soon as I could. So at first one of the family members did say my family member is en route to the airport to shoot the airport up, and it was the lookout given of the vehicle first of all. And so I gave out a lookout on the vehicle, and then needing additional information, a description of the guy, asked if they could send over a picture of him, which they sent it over immediately, and I began to pass it out amongst our, the way we passed the information out. And I gave that out, and then I went on to ask what was he wearing, and they told me he was wearing a blue polo. And I asked, was it a long sleeve polo or a short sleeve polo? And they were able to let us know that, again, it was a short sleeve polo. I gave out all of that information. I was just trying to give it out in real time as I was getting it, so the officers would know, and everyone who had their radio on would have their head on a swivel, and they would be actively looking for this guy. Mm-hmm. airport.
Yeah, Mr. Banks, you want to tell us what's happening here and right before this moment with you encountered
Okay,
Mr.
so after I received the information from my sergeant, that's when I just put the description, I put it together. So we already had that he was about 350 pounds, he was a big guy. So I started to canvass the airport. Once I canvassed the airport, once the description came over of the shirt that he was wearing, the blue polo striped shirt, that's when I was able to.
Okay, we were listening in there to a very important press conference about this, what law enforcement officers are saying, a crisis averted there at the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport yesterday, and kind of talking through how a tip from a family member who said that this person, his name is Billy Joe Cagle, had some mental health challenges, that he began to make some threats on social media, and so they called law enforcement, which is what everyone should do if you get a sense that a loved one or anyone else is making threats of this nature. So they put in a phone call to law enforcement in Cartersville, and they put in a phone call then to Atlanta, to the airport. Now, what those officials were saying was that by the time they received the phone call, this man, Billy Joe Cagle, was already in the airport. At that point, he didn't have a weapon in the airport, but they said they got that tip with the description of the vehicle that he was driving and the description of what he was wearing at the time, and that when they went through the cameras there in the airport, he was already inside of the airport. So just walking us through how they were able to get a hold of this suspect before anything took place. His vehicle was like double parked outside of the airport, and so they put one police officer there at the vehicle just in case he came back out, but they were able to find him inside of the airport. Inside of that vehicle, though, was a semi-automatic weapon, as well as 27 rounds of ammunition. So going back to their thoughts that this was a crisis averted, the mayor of Atlanta saying that this could have been much worse, much worse. So thank goodness the tip came in from the family and that police were able to put together the pieces of that puzzle in time to save lives. So we'll continue to watch what's happening with that. I'm sure they will put out much more information throughout the rest of the day and as their investigation proceeds. Want to get back here to home, though. We have Patrick Philbin with Block Club Chicago standing by. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We always love working with you all because you're able to, really give us an assessment of how things are going in our neighborhoods. And one of the biggest stories out of our neighborhoods here in Chicagoland over the last month and a half especially has been with immigration raids and what's been taking place and the fear that so many people have had. And so you have a story here that we're going to talk about where a young lady who's in high school with stage 4 cancer returns from chemotherapy, and what happened at their home?
So we are talking about a 16-year-old Lakeview High School student named Ophelia Torres, and she was at Lurie's Children's Hospital for 39 days going through another round of chemotherapy, which she was diagnosed with cancer back in December. And so she had returned home on Friday, and the next day she was with family, with her mom, reunited with a lot of her family members, her cousins and friends, and her mom on that Saturday, so the day after she got back from the hospital, had a call from her father, Ruben Torres, from the Broadview ICE facility, saying that he had been detained on that Saturday afternoon while he was at a Home Depot in Niles, and was arrested, detained by 4 immigration officers, and now the family and Ruben Torres's lawyer is hoping to get him a hearing and get him out.
Yeah, so he was a house painter, self-employed contract worker, and we know that many of them are day laborers, as most people refer to them as, are at Home Depot and businesses of that sort throughout the day looking for work to support their families. So the family has filed this emergency filing. It's an emergency detention filing. what are their chances here? What are they saying? What is the attorney saying? I mean, we've seen some situations. I remember there was a man who was going through, I believe, some type of health treatments, and his brother was detained by federal authorities, but he was able to get back to his brother so that he could help him survive.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping for in this case as well, and it's something similar. And yes, this is kind of what we're seeing a lot of in Chicago is the federal agents and kind of the crackdown from the federal government is targeting these, department stores, a lot of Home Depots we've seen in our coverage at Block Club. But yeah, so the emergency motion essentially was filed in federal court, and pretty much lays out that Ruben's arrest was unconstitutional and against his rights to due process. And so the family and his attorneys have a hearing on Thursday morning to hopefully get Ruben out of federal detainment and back to the family while he goes through the process of fighting this, because I should have mentioned this before, but Ruben has been in the United States since 2003. He's been here for over 20 years. And that's what his attorney is arguing, that because he's been here so long, that he deserves due process in this case.
Yeah, and he's the sole provider for his family. So, we've often had these discussions about who is at the ICE processing center in Broadview. The Trump administration would say that in their Operation Midway Blitz, they have focused on rounding up the worst of the worst. Many of them have gone through the ICE processing center, where we've seen so much protest over the last month and a half, and several federal filings as a result of what's been going on there. But when you talk about the worst of the worst, Ruben Torres has no criminal record apart from minor traffic infractions.
Yeah, that's right. And that's according to files and documents filed in Ruben's case. But you're right. Ruben does not have any criminal history. And again, he's been here for over 20 years. And yeah, we've been seeing a lot of this in the Chicagoland area, where they are just arresting people. And I should have noticed Ruben was arrested and they had called him out by name in the Home Depot parking lot. So it wasn't a random arrest. They were looking for him and they knew who he was when they arrested him. And so, yeah, it's hard to categorize Ruben Torres and some of the other people and residents of Chicago who have been arrested as the worst of the worst.
And so he has a bond hearing on Thursday. Where do things go from there?
Ruben's attorney is hoping again to get Ruben out of federal detainment after that hearing. But like so many situations, and just kind of how the process is working with these cases, things change on a day-to-day basis. So it's really hard to say what will happen after Thursday, if the hearing is even confirmed and goes on as scheduled. So yeah, it's hard to say in this moment what will happen after Thursday. But I think it's safe to say that the family is hoping to be reunited with Ruben.
Yeah, and when we say he's been in the country for the last 20 years, did he have any type of work documents or anything of that sort?
It's not clear if he has work documents, but yeah, he has been working for the same company and under the same boss for the 20 years that he's been here in Chicago. And his partner, longtime partner of over 20 years, she is a DACA recipient who's been in the country since 1998. And yeah, there is more to develop with this story, and I'm sure we'll learn more about Ruben and kind of who he is as it continues. But that's kind of all we know right now.
Yeah. Tell me about the fundraiser for the family. It looks like people in the community are trying to step up to support them in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. So the in-home teacher, a woman named Valerie, she started the GoFundMe for Ophelia and Ophelia's family to help pay for Ruben's legal fees. She started the GoFundMe on Sunday, so about 2 days ago, and it's already up to, I think, over 25,000. It could be nearing $30,000. And so the family also put out a statement about how for all of the money that the family does not need, that they will raise, it will go back to other families who are dealing with ICE-related activities, arrests, and that was actually Ophelia's idea. And I thought that was just a really kind of touching moment and a really striking example of the person Ophelia is, even at such a young age, at 16 years old, and just kind of the person that her parents raised.
Yeah, she's in a very adult situation right now. So let me ask you this. How did you hear about this story, and how much longer does Ophelia have for her treatments? I mean, where is she in her cancer treatment?
So I'll answer the second question first. So she is in stage 4 of her cancer treatment, and she is fighting really hard, as she has been since December for 9 months now. The last treatment that she had at Lurie's was particularly difficult. I met with Ophelia last night at Lakeview High School, and she was in as good of spirits as you can be given her situation. She's feeling, a little heartbroken and discouraged these days, but she's fighting as hard as she can given the situation. So she is doing well. She's continuing to do treatment at home. I'm sure she'll be in and out of the hospital while she continues to go to school and things like that. But I had heard about the story actually just kind of perusing around social media, and I had seen that one of her teachers at an art center reached out or did some outreach on Ophelia's story after Ophelia herself put her story out there on social media. She had made a TikTok and an Instagram reel describing not only what her dad is going through currently, but what she is going through personally. And before this all happened with her dad over the last couple of days, he had encouraged her back in December to share her story of recovery and her journey with chemotherapy. And she initially was scared to and didn't want to. And when she finally spoke out about her dad, it was really the first time she had spoke out about what she was going through, and a lot of her peers at school and friends and even some family members. That was the first time that they had known she was diagnosed with cancer and is going through chemotherapy. And so, it really is just another testament to her and to, the strength that she has shown now for herself, but, now for her dad, in a way where her dad has been there for years and years and years, obviously supporting her.
Yeah, what an interesting story here. So the bond hearing is Thursday. They have filed this emergency motion in court. Please keep us updated so that we can let people know where things go with this story. And thank you for your great reporting.
I definitely will. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Take care. 2:33. We'll be right back. 2:35 right now. I want to read to you in part a notice that we got first thing this morning. It says, for the past several months, the group It's the Same Water has respectfully requested that the Valparaiso Lakes Area Conservancy District Board investigate alternatives to alleviate the recent increase in water and sewer rates. The dramatic uptick in monthly bills has not gone unnoticed by VLACD stakeholders, although the VLACD board has offered to engage in discussion of difficult topics. According to their website, the body failed to pass a motion that would have initiated research into cost alternatives. It goes further than that, but I want to bring in Stu Summers, who is listed on here as a contact for It's the Same Water, to talk a little bit more about where things stand there. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, well, thank you so much for allowing us to join you. We appreciate this. There's about 1,000 of us here on the north side of Valparaiso, Indiana, served by a special government entity that raised our water and sewer rates in January, then raised them again in July, and probably plans to raise them again for several years to come. So we're working together with a small group of citizens, and I think we can find a way to lower our water and sewer rates by about 40%.
Wow, 40% is a lot. How much have your bills gone up? Can you give me like one example?
So I think they went up about 13% in January and then another 8.5% in July. I don't know for sure that that's the correct percentages, but we've got some folks, like any community, on fixed incomes. We've got a level of people who are coming from families that are on free and reduced lunch over at the local school. So $250 a year, that makes a big difference to an average family.
Oh, absolutely. And I see here that about a week ago, residents were voicing frustrations with long-time water pressure problems. So there are several different things connected to the water before you even get to the bills that you all have had issue with.
Well, years ago, 50 years ago, we were way outside the city, and we had failing septic systems that were polluting our lakes. So the district was formed. They got some grants, and they extended sewer lines down to Valparaiso City Utilities. Well, over those 50 years, Valparaiso City has grown up and now surrounds our district, and it's an odd situation. The city sells its water to the district. The district marks it up several hundred% because they've got inefficient operations and overhead. And the result is that we have neighbors across the street that are paying 40% less for the same water that we're getting, same pipes and the like. It's an odd overlap of government. It's probably one of those things where we should say the district was formed, it served its purpose, time for some intergovernmental cooperation and some reform to help get the rates back down to the level that is fair throughout the Valparaiso area.
Well, reform, obviously, in any form, in any place, usually takes a lot. So tell me about the process of you all raising these issues with your lawmakers in that area.
So thank you. We started in July when the second rate increase came out, and we were all talking about it. We went to our board. One board member made a motion to anticipate and investigate ways to reduce costs. Ironically, he couldn't even get a second to that motion from a board of 7 people. We then had a little quiet campaign where we sent some emails and the like to board members in August and asked them to reconsider. That was kind of the kind and gentle approach. That didn't work either. So we had a big meeting in September, again, the board was very defensive, and the staff was resisting our calls for efficiencies. So now we've gone door to door, mail campaigns, listening to our neighbors. We found a provision in Indiana law that if 20% or more of the property owners qualify to get a petition, then the county court, which created our district, can step in and hold a hearing, and they can then do what the board thus far has refused to do.
Very interesting here. And you mentioned the frustration that you were being met with on occasion here, bringing these issues up. And I see that you all are disputing claims that you actually want to seek annexation from the city.
Yeah, the board tosses out these objections saying, well, there's no way you can get city water without being next to the city, and then your taxes will go up. That's baloney. Valparaiso City Utilities has two rates, one for inside the city limits, one for outside the city limits. They have over 2,000 customers who are outside the city limits who are getting Valparaiso City water at that rate, and that's the rate we're shooting for. We don't need to be annexed. We have good service from fire and police, our sheriff's department. We have Valparaiso schools. So there's really no need to even bring up this annexation. It's a scare tactic that the board has raised as one objection to what we're trying to do.
So what are some of the other suggestions that you all have raised? You mentioned there the city of Valparaiso absorbing the VLACD, Homes for Water and Sewer Service. What are some other suggestions that you all have brought to the table?
Well, if they sat down with the city and agreed to investigate and look at options, maybe they could take over the billing function. Our Valparaiso City Utilities recently absorbed another conservancy district on the other side of Valparaiso, 700 new customers. They didn't have to add a single employee because Valparaiso City Utilities professionally run, they're of scale, they have engineers, they have a good billing system. So I think there's options to negotiate a piecemeal, to negotiate elements of the service, negotiate a way to just lease the system to the city rather than having to take it over altogether. There's all sorts of options available, but when you talk about efficiencies in government, more often than not, that means a reduced need for staff. And generally, government entities resist calls for reform because their staff feels threatened. And we're not trying to threaten staff. We're just trying to get some fairness in the way we pay for our utility bills every month.
Okay, so I'm sure we, the media, aren't the only ones who have read this letter. Have you heard from any of them today?
Have not heard from other media. Thank you for reaching out to us.
Your local lawmakers.
Yeah. Yes, we've talked to some city council members who this is really a separate entity of government, so there's not a lot of role that the city council members have, at least at this time. And we've also reached out to our state reps. If the process that Indiana law has now for reform, which we're exploring, and we're gathering those signatures, got several hundred already and more coming in. If we need to get some legislative reform, then when the Indiana legislature meets again in January, we've been told by our elected representatives that we would have a listening ear to make government a little more effective, a little more efficient, and to help keep utility rates down.
Okay, well, we'll see where things go from here. Keep us updated.
Will do. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks to the people who are watching this for your interest in our project here.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, it's 2:43. We'll be right back. 8:46 right now, and one of our favorite places here in Chicagoland is getting a bit of a facelift. At 121 years old, I want to bring in the president and CEO of Ravinia Festival, Jeff Hayden, to talk a little bit more about this massive renovation project. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me here.
Oh, thank you for your time and for shepherding this effort to preserve a place that so many of us hold near and dear to our hearts. Ravinia has a long history, a long legacy in this area. So you're doing this $75 million renovation project. Talk about where we are at this point.
Sure, it's exciting. Even though we had a great summer and the summer music is still sort of singing in our heads, immediately after the last concert, we moved out of the pavilion. We took every single thing out of there, and we took all the seats out. We demoed the stage, the ceiling, all of the dressing rooms, took the sound out. And so now when you walk in the pavilion, there's a lot of concrete around and dirt, and we are making it ready for both this next year and for future generations to be updated. So that's new lights, that's new sound, new stage, new acoustics, new dressing rooms. We're really excited to unveil this in 2026.
Oh, and you all have an important anniversary that's coming up too, right? That you kind of want it, I don't know what stage you'll be in by then.
Absolutely. So we're looking ahead to when we're 125 in 2029, we want to make sure that all of our stages at Ravinia are updated. And of course, the most important stage is the pavilion. Even if you're on the lawn, the pavilion is necessary and important to deliver that great sound out to you. So we're a nonprofit organization. We have music education programs throughout Chicagoland, and everything that we end up doing to support our facilities, we raise the money for. And so we've had a lot of generous contributions to help us pay for this so far, and we're looking forward to having the community come in and participate at this point to put their name on a seat, on a brick, maybe a star dressing room, but really anything helps a lot because this is the community's asset, and we're really fortunate to be able to have it here.
Oh my, can't wait to see it when it's all done. Is it weird to you though to see it kind of dressed down?
Well, what's really weird is that it actually is wrapped. So there's actually a huge vinyl wrap around the whole outside of the pavilion. So that way we keep the dust out and then we can turn the heat on when it gets cold outside. So it's exciting. But in the meantime, this weekend, we actually have a whole set of winter and fall concerts coming up. And so people want to come and hear some construction and then go inside and hear the quiet of jazz, cabaret, Take Six, Sam Bush, you name it, we have it. And we're looking forward to welcoming people to see the fall colors at Ravinia.
Oh my goodness. Talk a little bit about that balance here while you all continue your programming. I mean, Ravinia is about so much more than just concerts.
Ravinia is so many things. We have the concerts in the summertime, which we know and love. We also have a massive music education program that takes place in 120 schools throughout Chicagoland, and we're putting instruments in kids' hands. So that's very active right now as well. As I said, we have concerts that take place inside in our Martin Theater, in our arts and crafts style theater that's 121 years old, beautiful spot. And then we also have a Staines music program, which trains the next generation of pre-professional musicians, which now are all winning Grammy Awards. So we have a lot of things going on here, and just so appreciate being part of the Chicagoland community.
Yeah, brand new meaning to dust your shoulders off on this here. About how many people file through Ravinia each year?
We have about 400,000 people that come to Ravinia each year. This year we had people that came from just about every single state in the United States to be able to come and hear concerts throughout Ravinia. And of course, we have a lot of local people. We had record ridership on the Metro as well. So we are definitely a community-based organization with a worldwide reach.
Yeah, and everyone loves the lawn, of course. I feel like people put so much effort and creativity, really, into their stay on the lawn. Is the renovation going to change that at all?
No, the lawn will continue to be the most green and luscious lawn you'll ever see, but we'll continue to put up screens on the lawn as well. But I think the pavilion will start to become the new thing because we're going to have these very comfortable new cushions and chairs inside, great sight lines, great sound, great lighting. And so each is going to have its own vibe, but I think the pavilion's going to start to vie for a little bit of that lawn experience.
Ooh, okay. Are there any other things? You know, I feel like even when you are well-meaning, I mean this sincerely, when you're well-meaning and you are excited about a project, sometimes you do get pushback from people who just don't like change. Have you received any of that?
You know, nobody is sad that we're losing these seats that are 75 years old and 17 inches wide. So everyone's very excited to see those go. You know, I think the challenge for us is that we're actually reducing our seat count from 3,300 seats to 2,800 seats. And so it just means that, you know, each seat's going to really count inside the pavilion, and so we have to work with our artists and our audience to make sure that everybody gets in. And I would just say, you know, we are in a neighborhood, and so we're working really closely with our neighbors to make sure that our just slight little home renovation project doesn't disturb them too much. They've been really great about it, but we want to be good neighbors as well.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. And overall, what do you hope that people really keep in mind during this time where you all are going through such a transition?
You know, Ravinia is the oldest music festival in North America, and it is looked at as really the pillar of music festivals, with the Chicago Symphony anchoring it, and then, of course, all the other great rock, pop, and jazz, and R&B, and country. And it's the most diverse music festival that you can find. And so for us, we need to make sure that we have a facility that can support all of that. The pavilion was not designed with any of that in mind. It was designed for ballet, and so not even necessarily the Chicago Symphony. And so we want to make sure that we have a world-class facility to match our world-class programming and the wide range of programming, because that's what people want. They want to have something different every night. They want to be surprised. They want to go see something that they love. They want to discover something new. And artists prefer coming here. As James Taylor said, it's refreshing for him to be able to perform in a place built for music, not for sports.
Oh, yeah, it's such a special place. You know, whenever we have you on the line, we always like to press a little bit. Is there any breaking news, any surprises that you want to maybe unleash and let people know about today?
I have to save some fodder to be invited back in March when we do our big unveiling for the season. So we will continue to have our big season announcement in the middle of March. Do note that our summer will actually look a little different next year. We'll have a big set of concerts in our Martin Theater at the beginning of June, but then we will actually go dark for a few weeks and not reopen until mid-July, because we have to move back into the new theater, get it all ready, test it out, and then July 11th will be the big date that we'll start the summer season in earnest.
You know what? And that was the question, the final question we were going to ask you. How do you anticipate trying to test this before it's up and running? And you just answered that there. So we look forward to it. Can't wait to hear more from you about the renovations and what surprises are in store for us.
Well, thanks so much, and come and hear some music this weekend at Ravinia, and also the first weekend of December. We'd love to have you all up here.
Oh, sounds good already. Now I've got to go do my research. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks so much.
Take care, Jeff. Care. 2:55. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, it's just about 2:58. We've talked a lot about what's happening on Main Street. Let's take you to Wall Street. It's actually been a record day here on the back of several different things. So the Dow has reached a new intra-record day today, boosted by some strong earnings reports from several different companies. So that's great to see here. Still, it looks like investors are monitoring a crucial week for third quarter earnings. So that's something that's still out there. And I'll tell you another thing that's out there as well right now. The September Consumer Price Index report is coming out on Friday. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. Again, coming out on Friday, the September Consumer Price Index report, and the financial markets will definitely be watching that, and we'll see what investors kind of how they react after that information comes out on Friday. But today is a good day. It's great to see some green on the screen here as we take a look at what's going on with stocks today. Hopefully we'll see much more green in the days to come. Hey, we certainly appreciate you being here with us for Chicago Live over these last 2 hours. It's been great to talk over so many different things that are happening in our areas. It is about 53 degrees outside, and we are anticipating some rain throughout the day. So make sure you bundle up, take your umbrella with you, be safe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. I think it'll be Tia Ewing who will be joining you tomorrow. I'll be off for the rest of the week, but I'll see you soon.
Wars, and the ninth is coming, believe it or not. So I just want to say it's great to be with you, and when we're finished later on, we're going to have a little quick lunch, and they do great food at the White House, and this is used sometimes for evening, where we've had some incredible people for the evening, and some of the big foreign leaders have been coming, and most excitingly, on the other side, you see the fence and the wall. We're building a world-class ballroom. You know, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom here. We don't have a ballroom. We have a little cocktail area, but we don't have a ballroom. The East Room, it's called, is a very small cocktail area. It holds about 88 people if it's tight. And I said, if I do this again, I'm going to get a ballroom built, and we're putting up our own money with the government is paying for nothing. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money.